Oh, so nappy. Get the shivers down through my livers. There we go. Perfect. Well, can we do that once we're doing it? Yeah. Perfect. We'll do it once people have joined us. Remember to guard your privacy. Better than guarding your privates, I suppose. Welcome, everybody. Tis the won't be the final Whiskey Friday of 2024. That will be next week once we're back. This is the last Whiskey Friday before Christmas. So, Merry Christmas, everyone. If I don't speak with you before then, have a merry, merry time. It is the most wonderful time of the year and all that for some. It's also a hard time for others. So, those of you who are having a hard time, reach out, give a shout. I'm not going to be doing much over the holiday, just hanging out with my kitty cat and my beautiful wife. We're going to make some Christmas bread. So we're carnivore, not by choice, but because my wife's got some health problems that carnivore helps her with, and I help her along with that. Merry Christmas, Orist. Welcome. But we're going to make some... What's up, Brandon? Welcome, brother. We're going to make some keto dried fruit and nut Christmas breads for Christmas. Not like sweetbreads, which are organs pressed together. That's different and a very European thing, which I've never really been able to get into. These would be sweet breads, not to be confused. Very difficult sometimes. English is weird. So we got a wonderful slew of things to lay on y'all this fine evening. One thing, we're going to do a little science. We're going to talk about our intake packages here off to my left, which you can't quite see, which is fine. So we're going to talk about 82 millimeter throttle bodies. We're going to talk about 93 millimeter throttle bodies. We're going to talk about the surface area of your air filter. That's right. Why is that important? You know, so we did this a number of years ago, and it seems that the message is getting lost amongst another bunch of other noise. So we want to help clarify what these parts do and how they work, why they work, why it's impossible for them to not work. So we have this all on our website. So we're going to start with this, and then we can go into our Christmas sale as more and more of you come on board. But in essence, I want to put a poll together. I want to ask you guys a question, and it's a trick question. It's not intentional to be a trick question, but it is kind of a trick question. So is it flow that more flow that creates more horsepower, or is it more pressure that creates more horsepower? As in regards to an intake, if you can get more pressure to the engine, does that create more horsepower, or does flowing more air into the engine create more horsepower? So we'll create this poll. So it's a flow or pressure. Which one is I guess the options would be flow, and then the other option would be pressure. We're doing this on the fly, by the way. That's kind of how we don't practice shit. We just get in here and make it work and make Justin sweat over there. And we can probably get rid of the yes and no, but I don't know how we do that yet. So he'll figure that out. And the question is, what is more important for creating horsepower? Sure. we're gonna short circuit it. What makes the horsepower? Yes.
I like how we can leave it.
Yes, everything makes the horsepower. All of it makes the horsepower. And some of you guys who are regular attendees, what's up, Larry? Welcome. Hopefully you're feeling better, brother. That vertigo and whatnot is better. The little crystals in your ear are cooperating and whatnot. So we'll give that one a little bit. We'll keep talking here about our intake packages. When we did the initial work on the 991.2 GT3 RS, which is quite healthy from the factory, makes about 460, 458, 460, something like that, to the wheel on our dyno, stock, bone stock. We put headers on it. It only made about 18, 19. We're like, or more importantly, Charles was like, that's strange. That must mean there is an intake restriction. Now, by restriction, we have to be careful. You immediately go to a place of a restriction to flow. And that isn't exactly right. So I'm giving some of the answers away. But what the restriction really is we weren't getting all of atmospheric pressure all the way to the intake valve. So, and hold me accountable here. We'll come back and explain what's going on with ram air, because ram air is flow, right? So wouldn't more flow at 100 miles an hour than equal more horsepower? So therefore more flow is more horsepower? It's misleading. And the answer is kinda. So we'll come back to that. So, got to do a little science. So I will try and keep this as brief and succinct as possible. Newton's second law is about conservation of momentum, right? So you've got to, yes, orange is the answer as the official sucks and blows guy. I appreciate you, Simon. Thank you for joining in. So we boil things back to physics, right? That's where we got to start from, because that's what generally rules our universe. And don't come at me about quantum mechanics and wormholes and bullshit, because yes, that happens, but we live in a much less quantum world. So we're just going to keep on with that. Newton's second law applied to fluids creates the Navier-Stokes equations. Navier-Stokes equations are for unsteady state, viscosity, and a whole bunch of other stuff about conservation of energy, potential energy, kinetic energy, et cetera, et cetera. Not shiny pictures of carbon, but there you go. When we simplify those, we simplify the Navier-Stokes equations, we get to the Bernoulli's equation. Bernoulli equation essentially relates velocity, gas velocity, or kinetic energy to its potential energy, which is pressure. So they are inversely proportional, meaning that if you have a conservation of energy in a system, you can't create it nor destroy it. It has to stay in balance. So if the flow goes up, the velocity goes up, increases, the pressure has to go down. If the velocity decreases, the pressure has to go up. Makes sense. So you can imagine about blowing through a straw. This is a little bit of a shitty analogy, but it kind of drives the point home a little bit. You're blowing through a straw, you cap the end of the straw. Now, the pressure is going up. Has to a certain point, even though the velocity went to zero. So at a certain point, it has to maintain equilibrium. So what's going on? How does this apply to your engine? So I just went through all that. So essentially the takeaway here is velocity of a fluid and the pressure of that same fluid are inversely related. And by the square of the velocity. So it's actually more than a one-to-one thing. That's fine. So pressure is also a measure of restriction. That's correct, which is, if you use Bernoulli's equation, that means that the velocity is decreasing and therefore the pressure has to go up. Same thing. So pressure being a measure of restriction, as the saying goes, is we're saying the same thing. So if the velocity goes up, the pressure has to go down. If the velocity decreases, the pressure has to go up. All the same. That's how a wing works. That's how turbochargers work. That's how a number of things work. Groovy. So how is this important to your car? Well, if you look at the 991.2 GT3 RS as it comes from the factory, it has the same air box as was on the 991 Carrera S, I think is when that airbox first showed up. And that car, I think that's circa 2013, something like that. I mean, it's 11 years ago at this point. Oh, Justin's stacking up Navier-Stokes equations and whatnot, Bernoulli's and shit. That's great. The airbox was designed for a car that was producing 360 flywheel horsepower, 380, something like that. And now it's on a car that's producing 500, but they didn't change it. So was it optimized for the car that was producing 500, or was it optimized for the car that was producing 380? Because it can't be optimized for both. Very likely from Porsche, it was optimized for the one from 380 and just used in that same chassis on and on and on and on and on because it fit and it was already there. Same thing with these bad boys. 82 millimeter throttle bodies have been in use since the 996 GT3. 996 GT3 is a great car. 997 GT3 is a great car. 82 millimeter throttle bodies are fantastic. If you're a Cayman owner, everybody covets them. They want this, even though they don't need it. They covet it because it's a bigger throttle body than what came on their car. But that isn't necessarily better. It's only better if it's going to solve a restriction, which is what Brandon illustrated for us, that pressure is a measure of restriction. So if the thing that we're adding actually reduces a restriction, then we're going to gain pressure. And when we gain pressure, we get more horsepower. Through all the work that we've done, the airbox between our beautiful carbon airbox that you see here for the 991.2 GT3 RS, with the dual giant cones. These cone filters are almost 4 times the surface area of the stock filters. Why is that important? Well, if you give a fluid 4 times the surface area to get through, it can do it very slowly. It doesn't have to speed up. And what did we just learn? That when air has to speed up, it loses its pressure. Has to, conservation of energy. So when it speeds up, the pressure is the potential energy, and it gets consumed so that the air can actually speed up. It's one way to think about that. So the airbox improvement was worth 0.3 to 0.4 psi. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot. Airbox is not suitable for work. It is shiny. It is very nice. Let me touch it. I'm gonna touch it. I'm gonna touch it. Shiny. It's creepy, but it works. That was just for Simon because he likes to touch it. Don't know that about him, but he does. It's crazy. So 0.3 to 0.4 psi gain just from the airbox. When we did the throttle body from an 82 to a 93, we picked up 0.2 to 0.3 more. So you can imagine that, at 14.7 psi is standard pressure as what 1 atmosphere should be. By picking up 0.6 and in total and adding that into the engine, that's quite a bit. And what that did is that shows us on this car, it got us another 30 in some different areas. And once we're able to tune the car, it ends up being quite a bit more than that. So we're actually able to get quite a bit more. So the throttle body is enabled by our plenum here. This is another part. This is part of the total package. So if you want your GT3, we have a very similar set of parts to this one, not in carbon. The GT3 parts, GT3 airbox is not in carbon. It's a little bit harder to do. We're working on that. We're trying to make a universal carbon airbox. That's a 2025 project for us that will work for 991.1, 991.2 GT3, the 992 GT3, and the 992 GT3 RS. That's something that we're working on in that regard. But it's the additional pressure that gets you that additional horsepower. Now, what's been weird is we haven't sold many of these and we just sold one, so that's breaking the drought a bit. But we haven't sold many RS airboxes and plenums 3 months, 4 months. Even through Black Friday, we didn't move a whole lot of them. So that was really a surprise. Moved a lot of aero parts, which is great. Thank you all for that. Moved a lot of suspension parts. We didn't move some of our bread and butter that only we make. Now, that's not true. There are others who make just an airbox, but they don't make the plenum. And I would question that their airbox actually does all the things that they say it does, because pressure is a funny thing. If you don't fix it downstream, then you run into another restriction, and all the gains you got were for naught, right? So if you fixed all of the pressure ratios or pressure gains in the airbox, and then you restrict it all through an 82 millimeter throttle body, you're just going to lose more through this throttle body because it has to speed up. It's got more pressure, so it's going to speed up faster and get into the engine. So anyway, that's the skinny on the intakes. They are on sale at our end of the year sale for 15% off, which is a screaming deal. If you've been thinking about it, you're not sure, 991.1 GT3RS uses this, 991.2 GT3RS uses this. We have solutions for cup cars. We have solutions for 991.1 GT3s, 991.2 GT3s. We even have them for 992 GT3s, but they need a tune. Waiting on Cobb to release the tune so that we can do that. Hopefully in January, February, we can find somebody with a 992 GT3 so that we can test it. All of our local guys aren't quite as adventurous as I am in allowing us to tune a car 50, 60 times to get it all dialed in to make all the horsepowers. It's funny. They don't want me to use their car that way while it's under warranty. Come on. Crazy. We also have one on our GT3 RS. Made a bit of difference. It does need a better airbox because that car from the factory is 474, and with our headers, it's 495. So she's stout. She's pretty stout, even though she's missing some torque in the mid-range. All right, so that's the skinny with the intake stuff. Did anyone have any questions? Any good questions that are not about sucking and blowing? So I have a hat on, but that does not mean what you think it means. Just saying. Cheers. I have a Croatian Manhattan. This is with some fancy liqueur, fruity liqueurs that our boy Jorge brought for us when he came over from Croatia. It's quite delicious. Oh. All right, so it looks like everybody got the poll right. 86% of you got pressure, especially as I gave you the answer, which is great. We have an educated audience, and I appreciate that about all of you. And anybody with a turbo car understands that it's about pressure. You need to build that pressure. Now, turbos are a little bit different because it's a pressure ratio. You can't kill the exhaust by blocking it and then having the turbine spin up super crazy. We're not going to get into all that. So when are we getting the GT4 Danger to manifold? So that one's difficult. One, I need a car to play with. And two, the tuning on that car is an absolute nightmare, honestly. As it sits, the car is at the limit currently with our headers and muffler with the tune. We can't find any more fuel. Even Cobb can't. So we're working on it. But until we have a tuning solution that's going to allow us to really go after intakes coming through the windows into an intake, center GT4 RS kind of center style center plenum, then it's going to be difficult to get the car happy with it, right? Because if we can't tune it, then it's going to run like crap. Either 981 or 718, they use the same ECU. Cheers, Porsche. Appreciate you. Not to burst anyone's bubble, but yeah, it does make them a little bit persnickety. We'll just say that. 718 GT4 muffler project, for those of you who've been waiting. If you have a PDK 718 GT4, we can get you a muffler. We're working on some revisions for that. Those of you with a manual are going to be waiting quite a bit longer. The Porsche, the manual, the PDK, the engine, and then in a GT4 RS, which we built all of this for, The engine and the PDK in the 4RS is the shortest combination of engine and transmission. The engine and and PDK in the GT4 is the next longer, and the engine and manual transmission in the 718 is the longest. So we have there is a revision that we can do to the muffler, but it's literally time in the day. It's time in the day. So the likely the car would be okay with GT4RS style window intakes because it would just be colder air, colder, denser air, and it knows how to deal with that. I appreciate that, Brandon. Yeah, the intake kit for the 981 really helps, along with the headers and whatnot. Not really long, just like the gearing. Ha ha. Good. Somebody's paying attention. So these are some shiny mufflers. This is actually a good segue. We saw something on a competitor's website. Justin was doing some competitive analysis, and he saw something that was, we'll just go out and say off-putting. It was an article about how they back purge their welds with argon. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but we have a giant argon tank that's been installed outside the building. Do we have a picture of that? The giant argon tank? I'm going to send Justin on Spelunking Edition here real quick so you guys can see some of the upgrades we've been doing. So one of the things that we did recently is we previously had an engine building room. Ah, there she is. Giant silver Titan. So we went from getting, what were the, how big were the tanks inside?
300 bottles to 2,000 cubic feet of liquid, and then we got this monstrosity.
Yeah, so we went from 300 cubic feet bottles to 2,000 cubic feet portable tanks. They look like giant kind of carboys, like what you'd see like a big keg, but like super tall. And we were going through 2 to 3 of those a week, the big ones. And then we ran the numbers, and our local supplier, Central Welding, worked with us, and we moved to this giant thing. We've already had one refill. A refill for that is about $6,000, and it's full of liquid argon. And why argon? Well, argon keeps being a noble gas, not a noble metal, a noble gas. It doesn't like to react with things, and it doesn't, even at high temperatures, doesn't like to react, meaning that as you are welding at high temperatures, it shields that weld and that reaction, that melted metal and whatnot, from reacting with anything else that could contaminate it. When you see a weld that is any color other than silver, it is a contaminated weld. So like this one. This is a picture from a competitor claiming that it is, their argon shielded back purged weld. Any welder looks at that and they kind of throw up a little bit in their mouth, because that's not back purged. If it was back purged with oxygen, because the only way that turns colors is if there's oxygen present. It's the only way you form an oxide. The oxide makes a film layer. The film layer changes the refraction, diffraction, whatever, the refraction of the light, one of the fractions, and it makes a color for your eyes to see. And it's because of the various film thickness that's formed against the metal. So if you look, the picture on the left is one of our back purge welds. Why don't you zoom in on a little bit on that so the guys can really see the silver. And that's, and that's the difference, right? And that was a penetrated weld, correct, Justin?
Both, yep.
Okay, so both of these would be from welding from the outside of the tube, and that's how you can see the dimes. but this is the inside of the tube, and that's where it matters, because that's where you're trying to, the outside gets argon coverage from your welding tools. But the inside you have to fill up with argon. And when we're doing mufflers and we're doing big long headers and, you know, secondaries and valves and all kinds of things, you consume a lot of argon because you have to back purge all of this to get no color in the weld. So, hey, now I don't know nothing, Orist. I am not calling anybody out. I don't know nothing. But you can see here, this is one of Justin's time lapses. Yeah, cheers. But you can see that everything's nice and silver. Now, we're not perfect. Occasionally we have some things that are slightly gold. But nothing like that other picture where they're blue and dark brown and all this bit. You know, I'm sure if Philly was here, he'd be dissecting that weld and just like tearing into it. But why is that important? Well, a contaminated weld breaks. A contaminated weld is weak. And that's why it's important. That's why it's important for all of you to kind of understand the science and all the rigor that we go through to try and get, I don't know, good shit. We try to make good shit. So, and when I see folks touting their product as good and showing pictures that are obviously not good as good, that's just worrisome, right? What are you spending your money on, y'all? You should be spending, you know, save your pennies a little more. Save a few more pennies and come to us. You'll be very happy. So anyway, that was that bit. You want to do a little BTS? Yeah, so we spent some time last week working with a local high-profile filmmaker. If you guys would tune in to our YouTube channel on the day before Christmas, on Christmas Eve, so that'll be Tuesday next week, we're going to be dropping a video. You'll get to see this bad boy all decked out. This is a little teaser. We took the 992 GT3 RS out, and we put a zillion Christmas lights on it. And we built a little storyline for you, a little Christmas story. So it's kind of fun. So watch out for that. We'll be dropping little hints, and watch for Washness Media. And Washness does not spell the way it sounds. It's WOYSHNIS. So Washness is who you're looking for. Washness Media. Brandon is local to us. He's like 5 doors down from where Justin lives in Port Orchard. So we're very lucky to have him around here, which is great. So watch out for that. Do you want to show one more? Do you got the flippy do? Yeah, let's get the flippy do. Give them some. Give the people what they want. Let Justin throw that in the window here. Oh, yeah. Look at that pretty car. Ooh, she's slidey. Look at that shit. Sparkly car going sideways. That's fun. And you can imagine what that sounds like with a mini crack pipe on it. Ooh, so good. So good. Can't wait for you guys to see the whole thing. It's coming together. It'll be really cool. So yeah, Brandon brought his whole crew. It took me 4 hours to get all Christmas lights off of it, because we had, it's actually a good segue. We had another special guest in this week. We had Apollo Composites. I have a problem calling them Apollo Aero because they don't actually make any aero parts that are different from the stock parts. They call themselves whatever they like. They make really nice stuff. I'm not denigrating them. They make really nice stuff. So we got, we're helping them out because we have a 992 GT3 RS, probably one of the more local ones that are willing to take shit apart. So they came down, they brought their whole shebang. They shipped us a whole bunch of parts. Really, really beautiful. You can see the bumper section. This is all out of carbon. Very complicated piece. What's going on, Max? How you doing? Very complex piece. Very beautiful. The weave is very nice. It's all built out of pre-preg. What else? They've got wing end plates. They've got the rear bumper. They've got the fender vents. They've got the... I've got some pictures I can send you of the rest of the stuff if you want. Yeah, okay, give me a sec. Let me slack it to him. Give me 1 second, y'all. You guys can see the rest of it. I got little videos, all this stuff, so. Social media, and this one, and library. Una segundo, por favore. There we go, that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. Yeah, that'll work. Probably take him a second to get in there. Yeah. As they show up, Justin will put those up. But we had them down to test fitment. Parts aren't ready to sell quite yet. They have some of them on their website. Charles is going to help them with some of the clips. They have 3D printed clips, but they're using an SLA, a little bit too brittle of a material. What we use for these bad boys, MJF printing, is more appropriate from PA12 nylon. So a couple things that they're advertising are, I'll say, a little bit off. Just go to that. So you can see that carbon piece there in the front, the video that he just showed. You want to do that full screen so they can see it? Yeah. Cool. There you go. So it's beautiful, right? They're calling this a splitter and claiming that it creates downforce. I have a problem with that because it's an exact copy of the stock part. So it's not. Maybe because it's shiny and it's not rough plastic, but is that a meaningful amount of downforce? I'm not sure. It's very pretty. As a guy who uses his 992 GT3 RS on the racetrack, those parts terrify me because that's going to last being shiny like that for like half a day, right? But you can see this carbon bumper insert is really, really nice and very complex. And so that is not an easy piece of carbon to build, and the mold for that would be insano. Lots of removable sections, lots of captured geometry and whatnot. So the price for these parts is commensurate to their complexity, and even then they're spendy. So that's the carbon fender vents. For what it's worth, we're going to be coming out with our own. As you guys know, we're doing CFD on the car. I don't know if Ryan is lurking or listening. Probably not. He's a busy man. And it is close to Christmas time. But he does have a full model. And so Ryan has begun work on, thank you, Justin. He's begun work on this model that Jorvier did a fantastic job putting together. Fun fact, Jorvier posted this on LinkedIn and got 50,000 views, and he doesn't have that many people that follow him on LinkedIn. So a pretty GT3 RS attracts a lot of attention. Who'd have thunk it? So yeah, if you're interested in any of the Apollo parts, reach out. We are considering being a dealer. Their pricing is optimistic. I'm just going to say that. So don't bitch at me when I have to quote these for you because they're spendy. They're spendy. They are beautiful, but they're spendy. So take that as it is. For those of you who want a one-of-one bespoke badass tribute with all carbon everything, maybe it's worth it. I don't know. But we're helping them. We were here. We're considering using them for some of our parts to build some of the stuff. So that's kind of a early how you doing? Let's help each other out a little bit, kind of thing. So we'll see. We're trying to keep as many of our parts local to us as we can. It's difficult because most of the world's carbon competencies are in Asia, and for good reason. There's a lot of hand labor that's required. It's where the best carbon bikes come from Taiwan, and now some parts of China. Best all of the OEMs get their carbon from Taiwan, China. So saying that it needs to come from the U.S. unless it's a military project, which most of the stuff isn't, is a little bit. Dude, it made Larry, literally, I looked at some of the pricing and I was like, gulp. Wow. I'll give you, for instance, the fins on the top of the car, the little bits on the top of the car. Can you show that picture? Do we have a picture of that, Justin? I mean, y'all can afford this. You guys buy $300,000 cars, so absolutely you can afford it. It's just a question of whether or not you want to. So, hey, Merry Christmas, Maddie. Enjoy dinner. So these guys are $5,000. That pair of beautiful carbon parts is priced at $5,000 from Apollo. So they are very pretty. They are, I mean, honestly, the finish is fantastic. I have nothing bad to say about them. The fitment was great. They fit right on the car. They're gorgeous. $5,000's a bit much. It's maybe a bit much, but who am I to say? I don't know. But we sell $20,000 exhausts, so I think they're worth it. I know the amount of work that goes into them. So who am I to denigrate or question somebody else's parts? Value is in the eye of the purchaser. So that was one thing that was going on this week. Christmas sale. We're going to go over the Christmas sale one more time. So Christmas sale is on now through Christmas Day. So don't dilly-dally. Don't wait. You get a number of wonderful things going on. One, you make any purchase, you get a t-shirt or a hat. You get a coupon code including free shipping, t-shirt or a hat from our apparel store. You have to go to our apparel store to do that. If you make a purchase worth more than $5,000, you get free shipping. If you make a purchase more than $15,000, you get a free livery track bag. These track bags are awesome. A number of y'all have already got them. We've only got a handful of them left. I think we got 8 or 9 left in the building. Yeah, value is in the eye of the lap time holder. That is very true, brother. That's why we try and stay in the functional area of parts. So, yeah, totally. Maddie buys carbon fiber roll bars. I know what those cost. So, yeah, this is right up his alley. $5,000 roof strakes are right dialed in. So, it means a titanium muffler for his ST should be piece cake. Because that actually, every time you start the engine, you hear that. Rawr, it's awesome.
That thing is so pretty.
And for those of you wondering, that carbon bar was made by Action Composites in guess where? Taiwan. So don't give me shit about it's not made in America, because sometimes Americans are not the best at something. Sometimes. We often are, but sometimes we're not. So even Porsche sources their carbon from not Europe and not America. So there you go. Everything else we make here, it's fine. Especially, drones flying over New Jersey. I'm sure those were made here. But back to the sale. So 5% off headers, mufflers, MCS. I think that's it. 10% off D3 and D4 packages. So D3 package would be headers and our intake, or for a 997, headers, airbox, resonance intake, tune. That's a D4 package. We have 15% off our suspension arm packages, which, by the way, we have in development non-GT car suspension arm packages for 991 and 992. We've got all those scans done. That's what Jorge is working on over the holidays and early into next year. That's a great shot, Justin. Is that Samsung to the rescue?
No,
No, that's the big boy camera?
that's the big one.
Right on. What else? 15% off intakes. That's the last bit of that sale. So 15% off intakes. We're pushing to hit a new record. We need a round number. I need some of y'all to come in and help us out. Get your orders in. Let's make it happen. So you guys know, all of you are a part of our success. I was talking to a customer this morning who said one of the sole reasons that he bought, that's fantastic, Larry. I'm glad to hear that. This customer said the same. But he said one of the sole reasons that he likes being a customer of Dundon Motorsports is we do these kinds of activities. We do these educational kind of chats, Whiskey Fridays. Sometimes they're educational, sometimes they're just belligerent bullshit. But, you pick the educational bits out of the belligerent bullshit. Mr. Orris noticed the new banner. We actually have one above that banner as well. These are new banners that we're sending out to dealers. Anybody who's a dealer who sees this, reach out. They're also available for purchase for your man cave if you are a Dundon supporter. This was a wife of a customer that reached out and said, "Hey, I need a banner. I need something special for my husband. He's got banners, all his favorite folks brands that he uses on his toys, and he's got everything you guys sell. So we definitely need a Dundon banner." These were put together by our great friend Kirk Meyer of Meyer Creative, who's just an awesome human being. He hand delivered these to us from his banner provider. They are printed locally. Fantastic. Just honestly fantastic. Thank you so much, Kirk. You're a blessing. He's also coming in on Monday to help get some shots with Charles and Justin for our Scan to CAD Whiskey Friday Academy. It's a lot more complicated than y'all think it is. That last GT3 RS model took Horvier about 220 hours to make, from the CAD, from scan data to the final CAD solid model. So yeah, if you guys need anything, hit us up. I was customer. He was saying that it was our Whiskey Fridays and Whiskey Friday Academies that really helps him to understand what's going on, and he'd much rather listen to me like chat about bullshit than read a Renless post or some other Reddit post or some other thing. So that was really encouraging. It means we're on the right track. We're doing the right things. I'm hopeful that we can continue the momentum and we can continue giving you guys the kind of content that you're looking for. And if you have any suggestions for things that you'd like to know more about cars, Simon, cars, Porsches, that vein, other topics we can discuss more privately. It's fine. But car topics, please let us know. Give us a comment. If you guys are watching this after the live, give us a comment. Let us know. Give us a like. Let us know that you're there. We've only got 3,000 subscribers, and quite frankly, most of our Whiskey Friday guys aren't subscribers, so we don't know that you're here. If you subscribe, then we know a little bit more than you're here. It's interesting. The poll was as high as 75% that pressure was the most important thing for creating horsepower, and it's dropped since then. Interesting. Max, the Aston is fantastic. It's fantastic. She's parked for a minute. She needs to get washed. It's kind of crappy out here, and those skinny tires and 500 pound-feet of torque and a manual don't go well together when it's 40 degrees and raining. I mean, it does fine, but I like to drive it a little bit more spicily than that. Because we've got 11% in flow and 22% in yes. Yes is probably what I would have voted for, just because it's available. That's funny. Pressure dropped, flowing. Yeah, literally, the pressure dropped and the flow increased. That's funny. Racer787. I love your moniker. That's one of my favorite race cars. Honestly, I am a 787 fanboy. So, Max, the Aston. Yes, I am happy that I parted ways with the 458. I think the V12 Vantage S manual was the right move for me, especially with the way this one came together. I mean, the 458 was beautiful, being blue, and with the BBS and all the bits that I put on it, it ended up being great. The Aston will be a project. We'll probably wait a little bit. My E30 M3 is getting really, really close to being finished down at AR Motorsports in Portland, which is great. That has been an 8-year project, if you guys can believe that E30 M3. So my E30 M3 is a S62 swap 6-speed manual running on an M-Tron ECU. That was it. Now it's getting MCS 3-ways. It has an E36 front knuckle. The guys, Martin at AR, is making it perfect. He's literally had it since before COVID. He told me I'd have it the year of COVID, and then COVID happened. So, and they've had it ever since. And they went racing, and they've been successful at racing. So, they're trying to build a race. They closed their service, and then they reopened their service during the time period that they had my car, which is great. But I'm very patient. I'm generally very patient. But E30 M3 with an S62 naturally aspirated. S62 is the V8 out of the E39 M5. E39 is the chassis code, so a 2000 to 2003 M5 for those of you who are not BMW guys. I started as a BMW guy, became a Porsche guy. So $5,000 Tomahawks ever again. Dude, that's awesome to hear. I'm working on it, Jack. I think an Aston Martin, as I get more and more, I'll come back to Simon's comment, but I think dual carbon intakes on an Aston would be dope. And that might be something that Oris teaches me how to build some carbon parts in his garage. So we can do, wait, what? Driftworks has an Aston with carbon intakes? Or are we still talking about an E30 M3? No. Tyrone Thomas. You guys are coming with some good questions. So I'm going to go back to never asking about $5,000 Tomahawks ever again. I feel that. Luckily, we didn't pay that bill, and Charles ate the whole fucking thing. That was what was it, 32 ounce bone-in Tomahawk that Charles ate? Just ate it all. Right on, Brandon. Thank you. There's been a few E30 M3s with S62s. It's not new, but it's proper. It's better. I like to keep it within brand. I mean, you could throw a turbocharged, K series in there, and it's a 4-cylinder. It's bigger. It's nicer than the S8, S18, S16, S8. Get bigger than the 4-cylinder that came with the E30 M3. You guys are gonna. I'm a BMW 5 horsepower. I'm just old and I don't remember shit. So fine. Putting an RB26 in it. I've seen guys do that. Putting big turbocharged. That's just not right. What's funny is the S62 is actually a bit lighter than the 4-banger that was in there, which is kind of absurd. Well, one's cast iron, one's aluminum, so that's why. But it dynamically should still be the same. Really chuckable and super fun. Thank you, S14. God, I said S16, S8. God, make them. I'm gonna go take a moment of silence and repent back here in the corner. Tyrone. Lots of people are asking us about 991.1 GT3s and what to do. The short answer is inspect and replace. Inspect and replace. Just sear that into your memory. Inspect and replace. What do you do when you have any BMW M car ever? You inspect the rod bearings and you replace them. And you do that proactively. You know you're going to need to, so you just send somebody like Simon, who at some points probably worked on a BMW, might still, and you get it replaced. What you don't want to have happen is have your cams look like this picture. If you can prevent the cams from looking blue and looking scored, then you're going to prevent metal from being in your engine and circulating throughout it. Now, many of you are going to open up your engine. When you get there, you're going to drop the 991s. You're going to pull the valve covers off. You're going to look at it, and you're going to see these cams, and you're going to freak out a little bit. No, everything's by degree, right? Everything's by degree. So don't think that if you see something like this, you got to throw it away. No, put some new fingers on it. Do a compression and leak down. Change the oil. That little line on that finger follower is the devil. That is the devil. That is the thing that you would pull that off of and you get rid of it. That is a point-loaded fracture in the silicon carbide. That is the thing that turns that pad, which should be something that has low friction that the cam rubs against, into a cutting tool. Because now it has a line through it. It's got a fracture, and that surface is now not like this. It's like this. And so you've got that tooth there that's going to cut away at the camshaft. Hence the reason that you create heat, create lines, create problems. Does the G6 version of the engine that everybody got as a replacement fix this? No. Is the 991.1 GT3 RS immune to this problem? No. Is the 911R immune to this problem? Also no. All of them have the same architecture. They all suffer from the same thing. That's why Porsche continued to throw DLC, which is a friction modifier, a lower friction coating than having the metals there by themselves. So they kept throwing DLC at it. First they DLC'd the finger followers. That's how the 14 came out. 15, they changed DLC suppliers, thinking that that was the issue. 16, they DLC coded the finger followers and the cams, which means that the 991.1 GT3 RS has DLC coded cams. The 911R has DLC coded cams. The G6 is another evolution with a different DLC manufacturer, but still essentially the same thing. They didn't change the geometry. They didn't add extra oiling. They didn't change the lifter. They didn't change any of the things that are actually the root of the problem. They kept changing things that they hoped would just limp it along for a bit longer. So the way that we address this is not to throw the baby out with the bathwater. The 991.1 GT3 is a brilliant car. It is a beautiful car. It was my first modern Porsche. My first GT car was a 2007 GT3 RS. And they have their own bag of problems. But the way that we're going to address this and the way that we're going to keep pushing people towards calm, confident use of their beautiful car is through education and through programs that we're going to talk to great shops like Driver's Choice that Simon's an owner of in Florida to do inspections and replacement of finger followers. Maybe you end up where you need cams along with the fingers. That's the more expensive version of this. And if you need cams, maybe you need a rebuild. Companies like Autometrics in South Carolina can help with that. If you weren't into doing that, going that far down the rabbit hole, that's different. Maybe a 991.2 GT3 engine swap is better because you can pick up used 991.2 GT3 4 liters from any number of cars, an RS, GT3, a Touring, for like 30 to 40K. Now, it's not to say that 30 to 40K is a small number, but it's a lot less than the 80 to 90 that you're hearing from Porsche when they add everything up and they put it on their retail invoice when they swapped out a G6. That's not the number. That's not the number. Now, there's labor involved with doing this. There'd be a tune. There'd be a couple other bits to make this happen. This is all stuff we're going to document. We're hoping to do it this winter. As is always the case, my eyes are bigger than my stomach, as the analogy goes, with the amount of resources that we have to be able to accomplish things. The 991.1 GT3 stuff we're doing with the engine is kind of a goodwill project, right? Because we're not going to make any money from teaching you all that you can replace the finger followers. We don't make the finger followers. Porsche does. So it gets pushed by projects that are going to make us money. That's just kind of the nature of running a business. Do I want all of you to keep your 991.1 GT3s? Yes, there are a whole shitload of them out there in the world. We wouldn't be building a bespoke deck lid to put our Aero on the 991.1 GT3 if we did not believe that those cars have longevity on their side, that we're going to be able to resolve this and help people with these cars. Because otherwise, why invest a bunch of money on a bunch of R&D for a deck lid and a wing package that's going to modernize that car, bring its aerodynamic prowess back to modern levels, put them MCS. We've got a whole slew of suspension arms for it. Makes the car brilliant. You're going to be able to punch way over your weight class with that car with just suspension and aero. You get all of our power parts on the car, it's a whole nother thing. Get a 991.2 GT3 engine in it, also another thing. Grab 50 wheel horsepower just by engine swap. So I'm not scared. That's why that white car that was just in the picture, that's got 50,000 miles. A lot of them with track. So we haven't opened it up, but it's survived 2 track days so far. No, it's not under warranty, so a little bit scary in that regard. Hopefully I don't have to put an engine in it, but if I do, an engine that goes in it's going to be a 991.2 GT3 engine. Just saying what we would do. Anywho, great questions. Anybody else got any more questions? Max, I'm curious who you used to work for. My assumption is it's that Midwest, is it EAS? Is that the Superstar BMW restorers? Feels like it. I think that's the right one. The ones that we get the cream puff examples of like low mileage E39 M5s. I've owned 3 E39 M5s and I regret every time I sell one. They're gorgeous cars. I have an RS6 now. It does that job a little bit better, a little bit more modern. Feels like driving an E39 M5. For Kelly Moss. Kelly Moss does BMW shit? Really? I did not know that. Huh. All right. Got it. Yeah, I was like, KMR has been doing Porsches for as long as I can remember, since I was a young man. So having them with an M car in there, it's got to be weird. So, anywho, anybody else with some questions? I know there's a bit of a delay here. Wow, we're down to 60%. More people voting yes, I assume.
20 for Flo.
Those of you who voted Flo, you need to contact me privately because you need an education. Or you need to go back and listen to the part where we went through that. Because you're wrong is wrong. So, for those of you that are thinking it's Flo, let's talk. We didn't get to it. How does ram air work? So, if air is coming into the car at high velocity, it has a lot of kinetic energy. Once you park that air, what happens to it? Goes into the plenum, hits an intake valve that's closed. That air is coming in, whoosh. It's pushing into everything. Throttle's open, pushed in hard, coming in. Great. So what we just described was, what did my man Brandon say earlier? Pressure is a measure of restriction to flow. So we build all that pressure behind the intake valve because that air's got to stop. So all that kinetic energy that was coming in as a velocity got changed into potential energy, which is pressure, and then poof, EAG. Thank you, Simon. Thank you. Yes, EAG. Those are the BMW boys there in the Northwest that find all the cream puff, awesome BMWs and charge $1 zillion over what market is for them. Not unlike every dealer ever with a GT car. So air comes rushing in, hits the back of intake valve, has to park, and it doesn't park. It moves up and down, reflects, the pressure waves. I don't want to make it seem like all that air just comes in and sits there. But you're trading the kinetic energy for potential energy because you're slowing that air column down as it gets into the engine, hits the back of an intake valve, it stops, build up the pressure. Now you've got a lot of potential energy once that valve opens and you've got a large difference in pressure. So exhaust side, exhaust is negative pressure or a vacuum, right? So we're trying to create vacuum in a header to get a large differential pressure between the intake side and the exhaust side, so that you suck all that air in very quickly. You suck and blow, as Simon likes to say, into the cylinder. So you're sucking from one side and you're blowing on the other, poof, and you get a whole bunch more air into the cylinder than the swept volume of the piston would normally be able to accommodate. That's how we're able to get higher volumetric efficiencies than 100%, because 100% volumetric efficiency is just the swept volume of the 4 liters of an engine that is producing power. It's funny, we have a friend of ours, Joseph, who's been in this game. I think Joseph is in his 70s. He's been doing this for a long time. But yes, AR, yes, they would fit. You'd need to order the 991.1 GT3 street headers with 2.5-inch valves to fit into an Akrapovic center bypass. It's going to be really loud. It's going to drone because you have no muffler. But yes, it will fit, and you'll make power. So Joseph was here, and he's looking around, and he's been with us for a long time. He was our guy that would do all the mechanical fuel injection stuff. He's got his 4-gas analyzer in his shop, not far from here. And he's got clients in Dubai. He's rebuilt Lancia rally cars. He's built all kinds of shit, like super rare. Like he brought a Guards Red 959 Sport over for an alignment years ago that a client in Dubai found him and had him do work on to make right. I mean, this was like a one-of-one car. And that came through our shop because of Joseph. So Joseph was here, and he likes to stop by on occasion. He's retired. His son works for Williams F1, hydraulics engineer or something like that. Always busy. So Joseph stops by. This was earlier this week, and he's just he just comes in. And he's like, "Hey Charles, hey Jamie," and I hear him come over. I'm taking Christmas lights off the car. He's like, "Hey, what's going on? How you guys doing?" I was like, "Oh, we just got projects going on." He's like, "This is what I always wanted." I'm like, "Christmas lights on your car? What do you mean, Joseph? What you wanted? No?" It's like, "No, I wanted to do what you guys do." It's like, "This is awesome. You don't do service. You just like fuck with cars that are already really good and find out ways to make them really, really great." It's like, that's all I ever really wanted to do. So, that was really cool. That was really, really super cool, because Joseph, I have an enormous amount of respect for, and he's built a wonderful life for him and his children working on cars and being very, very good at it. So, yes, AR, that is the valved option. Valves aren't going to do much because they're going to close and it's going to go into the bypass, the upper channel for the Akrapovic bypass, and not really take a lot of sound off of it. It's going to be, I would say, similar to what our street headers and mini crack kit sounds like. Our mini crack kit's going to sound a bit purer, a bit cleaner, because we clean up those waves and we have a little bit with the megaphone and the reflection. It's Inconel, but I would certainly not tell you that you need to spend more money when you've already got an Akrapovic center. It's fairly well made as far as titanium mufflers go. So yeah, I'm over here riffing, telling stories. Anybody else got anything for me? Let me know. Otherwise, wow, we went a bit longer than I expected. It is 20 to 6, and I got to go get some takeout. It's Friday night. Not doing burgers tonight. We'll probably do a steak and some fish, although probably not a $5,000 tomahawk. I don't think they sell that where I'm going. Anybody with it? Damn, we're down to 60%. Jesus, y'all. You're killing me here. Somebody just go in and click, like, pressure a lot. Just, like, seed that. You guys, we're up to 75% of you, and alas, we're down to only 60% of you actually listen to the words I say. But maybe 40% of you will learn something, which is also good. Also good. It's very hard for me to not look at myself on the screen and look at the camera. So Justin had this set up for a while ago where I was, like, looking at the screen. The camera was right there, and it looked like I was looking at you. So I apologize. It looks like I'm looking in some random place speaking. But there you go. To finish this up, Christmas is about joy and peace and all that good stuff. Hug your loved ones. Give your kitty cat a scratch behind the ears. Give your puppy some pats on the butt. Take him for a walk. Take some time for yourself. It's hard. I've been an entrepreneur for a very long time, and I feel like I'm on a treadmill that never fucking ends. So take a few days. Literally, take a few days. Don't open your email. The world won't fucking end. I'm saying this more for myself than I am for anybody else. And enjoy what's going on around you. Right? Have a drink with your friends. Give your loved ones a hug. And we'll see you after Christmas. And this next one will be the last Whiskey Friday of the year. So we got to think of something special in the one day that we'll have before that day. Literally, we're off Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week. I will be manning the phones a bit on Monday and Tuesday. Joseph is awesome, Simon. Joseph is an awesome dude. He's Polish. He's great, just funny, super fun. So, very good, Larry. Y'all have a wonderful Christmas season. Enjoy your family, enjoy your friends, and we'll chat with you soon. Talk to you guys soon. Merry Christmas.